The church bells strike noon, and the September sun filters through the tall, stained glass windows, painting the floor with fractured light. Today is my daughter's wedding day, a moment that should be filled with joy. Yet even before the ceremony begins, a cold unease coils in my stomach. My hand lingers on the back of the wooden pew, tracing grooves carved by years of worshipers. It's just a seat, nothing more. But today, this ordinary piece of furniture feels strangely charged, as though it hides a secret. When I lower myself onto the cushion, I notice a small envelope tucked carefully beneath it. My breath catches. The paper is ivory, faintly yellowed, and my name is written on it in handwriting I know too well. That looping, careful script belonged to my late wife, the same hand that once left notes in my lunchbox, the same hand that wrote bedtime stories for our little girl. She has been gone nearly a decade. My throat tightens, and for a moment I wonder if grief is playing tricks on me. The choir begins humming their opening hymn, but I don't hear the melody. All I can hear is the echo of my daughter's voice from 3 years ago, the last time we truly spoke. We had argued that night bitterly, and after that she cut me out of her life as though I were already buried. She stopped calling, stopped visiting, and now I sit here as a stranger at her wedding. The gap between us feels wider than the aisle she will soon walk down. I slip the envelope into my jacket, my fingers trembling. I do not dare open it yet. Around me, laughter swells, cameras flash, and flowers perfume the air with the sweetness of lilies. It should be a perfect day. But beneath the beauty I sense danger, the kind of danger that doesn't scream but whispers, the kind that arrives wrapped in ribbons hidden behind smiles. My heart beats too fast for a man who only came to watch his daughter marry. As I lift my eyes toward the altar, I see her. My daughter. Her white gown catches the light like fresh snow, but her face remains unreadable, carefully composed. For just a second, her gaze flickers toward me. It's not the look of a bride searching for her father's blessing. It's something else. Something that sends a chill running down my spine. And in that instant, I understand this day is not what it seems. This is not only a celebration, it's the beginning of a reckoning. Something is about to surface, something buried deep. And that was only the beginning. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The organ swells and the doors creak open wider. Guests lean forward whispering excitedly, but I remain frozen, clutching the pew. My eyes drop once more to the faint outline of the envelope pressing against my jacket. I should feel honored, proud. Instead, I feel as though the ground beneath me is shifting and I'm about to fall. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The laughter of the guests fills the hall, bouncing off the high ceilings like the echo of a celebration I don't belong to. I sit stiffly, my hands folded in my lap, the envelope pressing insistently against my chest from inside my jacket pocket. Every few seconds, my fingers twitch, wanting to reach for it, to tear it open, to demand what message could possibly come from the hand of the dead, but the fear of what I might discover holds me still. A server leans past me to set down a tray of champagne flutes. One glass wobbles precariously, spilling a single bead of golden liquid onto the polished wood beside me. It glistens in the light, small but impossible to ignore. I stare at it longer than I should, as though it is an omen. In old superstitions, a spilled drink at a wedding meant sorrow would follow the bride. My grandmother used to say that. I hear her voice now, faint and unbidden, and it unsettles me. The guests nearby whisper about the flowers, about the bride's dress, about the groom's wealthy family. Every word is meant to praise, but threaded through the chatter is a current of disdain directed at me. I can feel it, even if I cannot catch every phrase. He shouldn't be here. After what happened, she doesn't even talk to him. I shift in my seat, wishing the envelope would burn a hole through my jacket so I could throw it away. But it remains heavy and persistent. 3 years of silence. That's how long my daughter has kept me at arm's length. I raised her, clothed her, sat up through nights of fever, worked double shifts so she could have everything she asked for. Yet she has not once looked at me with forgiveness since that night. I've replayed our final argument 1,000 times, words hurled in anger, both of us stubborn. But the exact moment we crossed the line into estrangement remains blurred. Did she push me out or did I walk away? That question gnaws at me. I glance again at the altar. The groom stands tall, shoulders squared, a smile painted across his lips. His father sits in the front row, exuding the smugness of a man who believes today binds 2 families and elevates his above all. I've never met him before this day, but already I sense disdain in the way he glances at me as though I am an uninvited guest who wandered in by mistake. The envelope grows hotter in my pocket. I finally pull it halfway out and study it more closely. My name, written with the same loopty and slanted my wife always used. My heart knocks against my ribs. She has been gone 10 years, yet here her hand appears calling to me across time. There must be an explanation. Perhaps an old letter misplaced and found, or something left behind intentionally waiting for this very day. I lower the letter before I can open it. I tell myself this isn't the moment, not with eyes watching, not with the weight of celebration around me. Still, I cannot shake the dread that builds in the back of my throat. Silence falls for a brief instant as the music changes, the bridal march. The guests rise to their feet and I follow mechanically. My daughter begins her walk down the aisle, her veil hiding most of her face. She holds her bouquet tightly, almost too tightly, as though afraid it will fall apart if she loosens her grip. I search her face through the veil for a flicker of recognition, for even a trace of the girl who used to curl up beside me on stormy nights whispering that she was scared of thunder. But she does not look at me, not once. And I realize, standing there with the envelope in my hand and my daughter gliding past me like a stranger, that the silence between us might be louder than anything said aloud. Silence has its own way of speaking. The music swells as the organ fills the church, but to me it sounds muted, like hearing through a closed door. My daughter walks past her veil, trembling with each careful step, her face hidden from the guests and, more importantly, from me. The distance between us stretches far beyond the aisle. It's the silence of 3 long years, a silence that has eaten away at everything we once were. When I try to remember the last time she smiled at me, the memory slips like water through my fingers. Instead, what returns is that night of our final argument, her voice sharp, her eyes burning with disappointment. She told me I was controlling, that I had ruined her choices, that I only cared about appearances. I shouted back that she was ungrateful, reckless, blind to the dangers of the world. The door slammed. She left, and the silence began. The officiant's words drift around me, muffled by my own thoughts. Guests lean forward, phones in hand, snapping photos of the bride and groom. I should feel pride. I should feel joy. Instead, I feel like a shadow, present but unwelcome. The envelope presses against my side, reminding me it exists. My late wife's handwriting here, of all places, on this day of all days. Did my daughter leave it? Did someone else? I want to open it, but I'm afraid that breaking the seal will break something else too. The fragile thread still connecting me to this family. The groom's family watches with smug satisfaction. His father whispers something to the mother, both glancing briefly at me, their expressions carefully polite but laced with superiority. I can almost hear their thoughts. Look at him alone, estranged small. I swallow hard. Perhaps they're right. The officiant calls for the giving of the bride. My daughter hesitates a moment before stepping forward, her hand trembling as she places it in the groom's. The gesture is meant to symbolize trust union, a bridge between families. But as I watch, I feel the ground sink lower beneath me. For she does not look back at me, not even once. There is a peculiar detail I can't ignore: her bouquet. Nestled among the white roses is a sprig of rue, a plant not commonly used in weddings. Rue is a symbol of regret, an old folk detail I once read about in a dusty gardening book. Why would she carry regret into her marriage? The thought chills me. Perhaps it isn't her choice at all. The officiant continues, but my mind drifts. 3 years of silence have etched themselves into my bones. I raised her alone after her mother died, did the best I could with the tools I had. Yet here I am, treated like a relic, best tucked away in the attic. The pain is sharper than I imagined it could be. The groom squeezes her hand, his smile wide for the audience. She forces one back, but I see it, the slight quiver of her lips, the hesitation in her eyes. I don't know if anyone else notices, but I do. A father knows, and it gnaws at me. The hall bursts with applause as the officiant announces their vows will begin. My hands remain still, clapping only in my head, the sound hollow. I tell myself to be patient, to let this day pass quietly, to keep my place. But deep inside, something tells me patience will not save me this time. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The vows begin, and everyone leans forward as if each word is spun gold. I stay seated, hands folded, heart thudding in my chest. The church smells of roses and wax, the air thick with perfume and anticipation. For a moment I try to focus on the beauty of it, to let myself believe I'm simply a proud father at his daughter's wedding. But the illusion cracks when I return from a brief trip to greet an old friend near the back. When I come back to my pew, the seat that had been mine, my only place in this ceremony is no longer empty. A man in a dark suit sits there comfortably, legs crossed, his arm resting casually along the backrest as if it has always been his. He doesn't look at me when I stop in front of him. He doesn't move. I clear my throat softly, waiting for recognition. Nothing. His jaw works slowly, chewing a piece of gum, the faint snap echoing in my ears louder than the vows being exchanged at the altar. Guests nearby glance, then quickly avert their eyes, as though they have been expecting this moment, as though my displacement was planned. It is a small thing, a seat, wooden, worn, unremarkable. Yet at this wedding it is everything. My place in my daughter's life and her family in this day, stolen as easily as sliding into a pew. My chest tightens. I could ask him to move. I could insist. But my voice feels trapped in my throat, thick with the weight of humiliation. I glance at the usher, but he deliberately avoids my eyes. The signal is clear. I am not meant to sit there. Not today. Not ever again. I take a step back, scanning for another place to sit. None remain. All filled, all claimed. Finally, I find a spot near the very edge of the row, half hidden behind a pillar. The wood is splintered, the cushion threadbare. From here, my view of the altar is crooked, obstructed. I sit anyway, lowering myself carefully as if acknowledging my new rank, the outsider at his own daughter's wedding. The envelope presses harder into my ribs as though mocking me. A dead woman's handwriting, a message I'm too afraid to read, and now a stolen seat. My wife would never have allowed this humiliation. She would have taken my arm, pulled me forward, demanded respect. Without her, I'm left to swallow silence. A faint memory intrudes, her laughter echoing in this same church years ago when we baptized our daughter. The pews then were filled with warmth, family leaning close, everyone sharing in joy. Now those same pews feel like a tribunal, each face ready to judge, each whisper cutting sharper than any blade. I rest my hand on the wood, feeling the grooves again. Generations have carved initials here, tiny hearts and dates, marks left to prove someone belonged, and I wonder if I carved mine now, would anyone believe I had ever belonged here? My daughter's voice rings out, reciting her vows, strong and clear. For the first time all day, she sounds certain. She promises loyalty, honesty, and love, words I once dreamed she might speak, not to a groom, but back to me in reconciliation. The man in my stolen seat shifts, leaning slightly back, and finally turns his head toward me. His smile is thin, almost smug, before he looks away again. My pulse surges. It's not just a seat, it's a message. And I understand now I'm not only being pushed aside, I am being erased. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. From my crooked view behind the pillar, I try to steady my breathing. The man who stole my seat hasn't looked my way again, but his presence presses down on me like a weight I can't shake. Around us, the vows draw to a close, applause filling the air, but I can't bring myself to clap. My palms remain still cold against my knees. Then, without warning, I feel a presence lean close from behind. A breath brushes against my ear, warm and deliberate. A voice, low, almost conspiratorial, whispers, "Don't make a scene. Not today." I freeze. The words are calm, but the tone carries warning, almost a threat. I turn my head slightly, but whoever spoke is already gone, retreating back into the row behind me as though nothing happened. I catch only a glimpse of a sleeve dark navy and a gold cufflink glinting in the dim light. The choir resumes with a triumphant hymn masking my confusion. Who would whisper such a thing, and why? Why would anyone assume I would make a scene unless they know something I don't, unless this humiliation was designed to provoke me? I clutch at the envelope in my pocket, the corner digging into my palm. The paper feels rough, fragile, as though it could tear with the wrong grip. I imagine opening it right now, standing and reading its contents aloud. What would it do to this ceremony? What truth is waiting inside? But I stay seated. The warning echoes in my head. Not today. My gaze drifts to the altar again. My daughter lifts her veil, her eyes shining not with joy but with something harder to place, unease perhaps. She smiles for the guests, for the cameras, for her new family. Yet I see the faint twitch in her jaw, the way she avoids locking eyes with me, even as her head turns slightly in my direction. I know that look. I saw it once before, years ago, when she broke her favorite porcelain doll and tried to hide the pieces. It's the look of someone carrying a secret too heavy for their hands. The groom takes her hand, raises it high for all to see, triumphant, possessive. The crowd cheers. I shift in my splintered seat, my skin crawling with the sense that I'm watching not a celebration, but a performance staged for everyone else's benefit. The man who whispered to me clears his throat, soft but deliberate, as though reminding me he's still there. I don't turn. I can feel his eyes pressing against the back of my head, daring me to act, daring me to disrupt. My pride stirs my blood heating, but I force myself still. The officiant proclaims them husband and wife. The room erupts in clapping and cheers. My hands remain motionless. I think of the superstition again, my grandmother's words about spilled champagne meaning sorrow. A single bead of liquid, a single whisper in the dark, and suddenly, everything feels wrong. The couple kisses, cameras flash, and confetti begins to fall. Guests surge to their feet, ready to follow them down the aisle. I stand as well, but slowly, my eyes scanning the crowd. No one meets my gaze. To them, I am invisible, deliberately erased from this picture-perfect moment. And yet, despite their attempt to silence me, I feel it. The story is moving toward me. Whatever truth lies in the envelope, whatever reason that whisperer tried to warn me away, it's connected. I am not just a forgotten father. I am part of something that someone desperately wants to keep hidden. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The reception hall hums with chatter, silverware clinking against porcelain glasses raised in endless toasts. Laughter rolls like a tide, filling the air with warmth that feels strangely cold to me. I find myself seated at the far end of a long banquet table, tucked so close to the edge it feels like exile. Plates of food arrive steaming and fragrant, but my appetite is nowhere to be found. I reach for the glass of champagne set before me, desperate for something to steady my nerves. When I lift it, I realize it's already empty. The rim is smudged, faint traces of lipstick staining the glass. My hand stills midair. It isn't mine. Someone else has drunk from it before it was placed in front of me. It's such a small thing, almost laughable, but the humiliation prickles sharp. At every wedding, the father of the bride should be honored. Yet here I sit drinking from another's glass like a beggar given scraps. I set it down carefully, my pulse racing. I glance around. No one looks at me. They are too busy praising the groom's family, clinking glasses, raising toasts. One guest nudges another, whispering, and though I can't hear the words, I know they're about me. The way they glance my way before lowering their eyes tells me everything. I rest my hands flat against the tablecloth. The fabric is fine white linen, smooth as water beneath my palms. Yet I notice a tear at the seam near my plate, barely visible. Imperfection, hiding in plain sight. I press the fabric down, feeling the frayed edges beneath, and it reminds me too much of myself, neatly presented but breaking apart at the seams. A waiter hurries past, setting down a decanter of wine for the row ahead, but when he reaches my side, he hesitates. His eyes flicker with something I can't decipher, sympathy or warning, and then he moves on without filling my glass. The emptiness remains. The envelope still presses against my chest, heavier now. I wonder if my wife foresaw this, if she knew I would be diminished and humiliated at our daughter's wedding. Was this letter meant to guide me, to strengthen me, or to destroy me? My daughter rises from the head of the table, bouquet resting at her side. She lifts her glass high, her voice steady as she thanks the guests. Her words are polished, rehearsed. Yet when she says family, she doesn't look my way. She looks only at them, the groom, his parents, their circle, as if her family begins there and not with me. The groom's father stands next, raising his glass with pomp. His voice booms, praising the union, praising the strength of his bloodline, praising what his family has brought into this marriage. The implication is clear: we are nothing. They are everything. Guests cheer, drink, laugh. I sit in silence, my empty glass a symbol too loud to ignore. And then, almost imperceptibly, I hear it again, a whisper. Not behind me this time, but to my left. Stay quiet. It's safer. I turn sharply, but there's only a blur of faces, none looking my way. A chill runs down my arms. The words could have come from anyone or from no one at all. I press my lips together, staring at the empty glass. Something is unraveling here, something none of them want me to know. Silence has its own way of speaking. The applause fades into a murmur as guests resume eating, forks clattering and wine glasses chiming. I push the food around my plate, unable to taste a bite. My ears, however, sharpen. From where I sit, I can hear them. Whispers. Not loud enough for the whole table, but just enough to reach me. Shouldn't have come. Embarrassment, after everything that happened. Each phrase pricks like a needle. I don't catch every word, but the rhythm is unmistakable, my name carried on tongues that pretend not to see me. I lower my gaze to the tablecloth, trying to steady my breath. A woman 2 seats down leans toward her companion, shielding her lips behind her hand. Her eyes flicker to me for a brief second, then away, as if the mere act of looking is dangerous. I hear my daughter's name spoken, followed by a soft laugh. The sound cuts deeper than any insult. I remind myself of the facts, the kind of thing that usually calms me. Social psychology teaches that gossip is a way to bond to establish who belongs and who doesn't. That's all this is, bonding at my expense. Yet knowing that does nothing to dull the sting. I glance at the centerpiece in front of me, a bouquet of white roses mixed with sprigs of rosemary. My grandmother used to say rosemary was for remembrance. The scent rises faintly sharp and woody, a reminder of funerals more than weddings. Another omen. Or am I simply too desperate for meaning in every detail? The groom's mother catches my eye for the first time all evening. Her smile is polite, practiced, but her eyes betray something colder. She leans close to her husband, whispering. His shoulders shake with laughter. I don't need to hear the words to know they're about me. I grip the edge of the table, my nails digging into the wood beneath the linen. Once, years ago, I was the one who gave the toasts, who commanded the room with stories of family triumphs. Now I am the story being told, carved into whispers and pity. The envelope presses against me again, as though reminding me that I'm not powerless. My wife's handwriting waiting. I touch it lightly through the fabric of my jacket, almost feeling her presence. She would not have tolerated this silence. She would have faced it head on. I lift my gaze and scan the room. One young guest across the table meets my eyes unexpectedly. His look is not mocking. It's curious, almost sympathetic. He opens his mouth as if to speak, but his companion nudges him sharply and he lowers his head. The message is clear. Even kindness toward me is forbidden. I lean back in my chair, the whispers still buzzing like insects around me. I want to believe I can endure it, that I can sit through this humiliation without breaking. But the truth is, each quiet word strips away another layer of my dignity. And still the evening is only beginning. But I soon realize that wasn't the worst of it. A clatter of cutlery jolts me from my thoughts. The groom's cousin rises to tell a joke, the kind of shallow humor meant to keep spirits high, but my mind drifts elsewhere. My hand moves almost unconsciously to the inside of my jacket where the envelope rests. This time, when I pull it free, something else comes with it. An old photograph folded and frayed at the corners. I hadn't realized it was tucked behind the letter until now. The sight of it steals the air from my lungs. It's from decades ago, my own wedding day. My wife in her lace gown, radiant and laughing, and me beside her, younger, certain that happiness was permanent. Our daughter is not in it. She wasn't born yet, but somehow her absence makes the picture heavier. The photo slips slightly in my grip, and I press it flat against the table to steady myself. The edges are curled, worn from years of being handled. I had thought I lost this picture long ago. How did it end up here, hidden inside this envelope, waiting for me on this particular day? I trace my wife's smile with my thumb. That day she made me promise we'd always face everything together, never apart. She said, her hand warm in mine. And yet here I sit apart in every way, without her, without my daughter, surrounded by strangers who wish me invisible. Across the table, someone notices the photo in my hands. A quick nudge, a muffled laugh. I catch the word pathetic whispered behind a palm. Heat rises in my face. I slip the picture back into my jacket before more eyes can see, but the damage is done. I take a sip from the water glass in front of me. This one is full, mercifully untouched, and the coolness steadies me. Still, I can't shake the sense that this photograph is more than memory. It's a message. My wife's face, my younger self. Both staring back as if asking, what are you going to do now? Will you stay silent? The band begins to play softly, a romantic tune meant to usher in the first dance. Guests turn their attention to the couple as they rise, swaying gracefully in the center of the floor. Phones flash, recording every step. My daughter's veil has been lifted, her face now clear, and for the first time that day, I see her eyes without a barrier between us. They glisten under the lights, but not with joy. There's something restrained there, something heavy. I know that look. It's the same look her mother once gave me the night before she revealed her illness, a mixture of fear and hidden truth. I shift uncomfortably, my fingers brushing the photo again inside my pocket. The air feels thicker. The light's too bright, as though the room itself is conspiring to expose something I'm not yet ready to face. The groom spins her, and as her gown flares, her gaze sweeps the room. For the briefest second, our eyes meet, not long enough for anyone else to notice, but long enough for me to see what she can't say aloud. It's not joy, it's a plea. And in that silent exchange, I understand my daughter is hiding something. Silence has its own way of speaking. The music shifts into a softer rhythm, the kind that tugs at memory. Couples join the floor, laughter spilling as they dance around the bride and groom. I remain seated at my crooked view, clutching the edge of the table as if it might anchor me. My daughter spins once more, veil lifted, her face radiant for the crowd. Yet I know her expressions too well. The shine in her eyes is brittle, her smile practiced. Then it happens. In the midst of a twirl, her eyes flick toward me. Just a fraction of a second, but it's enough. The noise of the hall dims and I see only her gaze. It isn't the cold dismissal I've endured for years. It isn't forgiveness either. It's something caught in between, something she can't hide. Fear. My chest tightens. Fear is a language I understand. I spoke it fluently the day her mother died, the day I almost lost my job, the nights I sat awake calculating bills. And now my daughter wears it on her wedding day, hidden beneath layers of silk and smiles. I lean forward, trying to hold her gaze, but she looks away just as quickly, burying the truth beneath laughter with her new husband. The guests cheer, oblivious. To them, she is a glowing bride, a success story. To me, she is still my little girl with a secret too heavy to carry. I remember once when she was 7, she fell from a tree and tried to hide the scrape on her knee. She smiled through the pain, insisting she was fine, but her eyes betrayed her. I had to kneel gently, take her leg, and clean the wound myself. She cried only then when she knew she was safe. That memory crashes into me now, so vivid I can almost smell the antiseptic and hear her small voice calling me Dad. But I'm not kneeling beside her anymore. I'm hidden in the shadows of this hall, watching as she hides wounds I can't see, wounds I can't reach. A guest beside me chuckles at something whispered, shaking his head. I catch the word outsider again, and the laughter burns. My fork scrapes against the plate, shrill and sharp, silencing the whisperers for just a moment. They glance at me startled before returning to their quiet condemnation. The photograph and envelope pressed together inside my jacket like two hearts beating out of rhythm. I touch them both, steadying myself. My wife would have read the truth in our daughter's eyes instantly. She always knew before anyone else, and now her handwriting waits for me, as if urging me not to ignore what is right in front of me. My daughter spins again, bouquet tight in her grip, and though she doesn't look at me this time, I know that glance was not a mistake. It was a message. She is telling me something without words, the only way she dares. And I realize I came here expecting humiliation, but what lies beneath is far darker. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The clinking of silver against glass cuts through the chatter, pulling all eyes toward the head table. My ex-brother-in-law, my late wife's brother, rises unsteadily, a champagne flute in hand. His cheeks are flushed, his tie already loosened, his grin wide in a way that sets my teeth on edge. "Ladies and gentlemen," he booms, wobbling slightly as he raises his glass. What a beautiful day to celebrate. Love, loyalty, and... He pauses dramatically, eyes sweeping the room before they land squarely on me. Family. Though some of us are better at keeping families together than others. Laughter ripples through the tables, thin and sharp. My shoulders stiffen. His words, wrapped in cheer, strike like a blade. He has always carried resentment toward me, old arguments about money, about choices my wife and I made without his approval. And now, with her gone, he wields her absence like a weapon. He takes another sip before continuing. But let's not dwell on the past. Today is about new beginnings. Our bride has married into a family of strength and stability, a family that knows how to endure. He smirks, lifting his glass again, eyes never leaving mine. My ears burn as the guests chuckle politely. Some nod, others avoid my gaze altogether. I press my palms flat against my knees, willing myself not to react, yet every word feels like a deliberate shove pushing me further into the shadows. I remind myself of a fact I once read in Roman. Feasts, toasts, were more than tradition. They were public declarations of power meant to humiliate rivals and elevate allies. My ex-brother-in-law must know this, even if only instinctively. And tonight, I am the rival he has chosen to diminish. The smell of roasted lamb drifts up from the platters, but my stomach twists. I glance toward my daughter. She sits beside her groom, smile, frozen eyes glazed as though she is far away. Did she hear the barb hidden in her uncle's toast? Does she care, or has she learned like everyone else here to accept my erasure as inevitable? My hand brushes the envelope again. The paper crackles softly like a whisper, urging me to hold steady. I think of the photograph inside my wife's laugh, her promise we'd face everything together. If she were here, she would not sit quietly while others mocked me. The toast ends with a cheer, glasses lifted high. Crystal clinks, voices rise. I remain still, my glass untouched. The man beside me notices his lip curling slightly before he turns away, muttering something I cannot catch. A silence blooms within me, heavy but alive. Silence is not weakness. It is a blade waiting to be drawn. I let the noise wash over me, their laughter ringing hollow. And as I watch my brother-in-law bask in the attention, raising his glass like a victor, I know one thing: this story is far from finished. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The music resumes after the toast, though it feels off-key to me, a little too loud, a little too forced. Guests laugh and chatter as though nothing venomous has just been said. My ex-brother-in-law slumps back into his chair, satisfied with his performance, while I remain still, my hands rigid on my knees. Then, in the midst of the clinking glasses and shuffling plates, a small sound cuts through. Clink, clatter. A piece of jewelry tumbles onto the polished floor. Heads turn briefly, then look away, but I see it clearly. A bracelet, delicate silver, lies near the edge of the dance floor. I recognize it instantly. It belongs to my daughter. I bought it for her 16th birthday, a slim chain with tiny charms, one for every year of her life. She never took it off back then. Seeing it now broken makes my throat tighten. She doesn't notice. She's busy smiling for the cameras, her hand entwined with her groom's, her laughter a mask stretched thin. I glance at the bracelet again, the broken clasp glinting in the dim light, a symbol of something once whole, now undone. No one moves to pick it up. Perhaps they don't realize whose it is, or perhaps they do and prefer to ignore it just as they ignore me. Finally, I rise from my crooked seat and walk toward it, step feeling heavier than it should. My knees ache, reminding me of years spent carrying burdens alone. When I stoop to retrieve the bracelet, I hear the whispers rise again. What's he doing? Always making himself seen. Pathetic. Their words cling to me like smoke. Still, I close my hand around the bracelet and feel its cold weight. The clasp is bent, snapped clean. Not easily broken, someone must have pulled hard. I return to my place holding the bracelet in my palm. My thumb runs across the charms, memories surfacing with each one. The tiny book charm, her love of reading. The little bird, her first school play. The heart, her mother's idea added the year she passed. Each piece is a story, a memory, a reminder that I once mattered in her world. But why is it broken now? And why hasn't she noticed, or has she noticed and chosen not to care? I tuck it into my jacket pocket alongside the envelope in the photograph. Together they feel like fragments of a puzzle, waiting to be assembled. My wife's handwriting, our wedding day. Our daughter's broken bracelet, threads tying past to present, demanding to be understood. The band strikes a brighter tune, urging the crowd to dance. Guests rise, swaying clumsily, their joy exaggerated. I remain seated, fingers brushing the broken clasp hidden in my pocket. The thought creeps in, uninvited, maybe this marriage, like the bracelet, is not as unbreakable as it seems. And as that thought lodges deeper, a chill runs down my spine. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The music pounds in my ears, but I barely hear it. My fingers brush against the broken bracelet in my pocket, cold metal pressing against the envelope. The weight of both grows unbearable, as though the past itself is demanding to be faced. At last, I pull the letter free, the ivory paper trembling between my hands. The handwriting is unmistakable. My wife's looping script flows across the envelope, tender and deliberate. I trace each curve with my thumb, my throat tightening. 10 years since her passing, yet here she is speaking to me from beyond. My pulse quickens as I break the seal with care, afraid the paper might crumble. Inside, the ink has faded slightly, but the words are clear. If you are reading this, it means she has reached a day I feared and hoped for, all at once, our daughter's wedding. There are truths she does not know, truths I could never speak while alive. You must decide if today is the day she hears them. My breath catches. The room spins faintly. My wife's voice fills my head, vivid as the night she whispered her last goodbye. I skim further. You will see signs. Do not ignore them. Protect her, even if it means she will hate you for it. The words blur. Signs. My eyes flick to the dance floor, my daughter's broken bracelet, her pleading glance, the rue in her bouquet, all of them come rushing back like puzzle pieces snapping into place. My wife had known something. She had prepared for this day, as if she foresaw a danger hiding beneath celebration. I fold the letter quickly, slipping it back into my jacket before anyone can notice. My palms sweat. The whispers around me fade into a dull hum. All I hear are her words, protect her. But protect her from what? From whom? I turn toward the head table. The groom laughs loudly, arm draped around my daughter's shoulders, pulling her close. She smiles faintly, but her hand grips her glass too tightly, knuckles pale. She glances down at her wrist, perhaps realizing the bracelet is gone. Her face flickers with panic for only an instant before she hides it again. The groom's father leans close, saying something in her ear. She nods stiffly, her smile forced. My gut twists. Whatever my wife feared, it seems to live in this family she has just married into. I sip from my untouched water, the taste metallic on my tongue. Facts race through my mind, legal records, inheritances, property disputes. I recall a detail from an article I once read. Many family empires are built not on love but on control. and often the first sign of fracture is silence. My daughter's silence these past years suddenly feels more sinister than stubbornness. The photograph, the bracelet, the letter, they are no longer just memories. They are warnings. My wife left me a task to protect our daughter, even if it destroys what little remains between us. I sit back slowly, heart pounding as the music swells. The crowd laughs and dances, blind to the storm gathering at their feet. And in that moment, I know I can no longer remain silent. Silence has its own way of speaking. The band launches into a faster tune, coaxing more guests onto the floor. Laughter rises, shoes scrape against polished wood, and glasses clink in celebration. Yet my focus narrows, sharpening only on my daughter and the man now calling himself her husband. The groom laughs too loudly. His grin stretched wide, but it doesn't reach his eyes. He wipes sweat from his brow with a napkin, though the hall isn't hot. When the waiter approaches to refill glasses, he waves impatiently, nearly knocking the tray from his hands. A slip of arrogance, small but telling. Then it happens. As he lifts his glass for a toast, his hand trembles, just slightly, but enough for droplets of champagne to spill onto his cuff. He curses under his breath, quiet, but I hear it. His father leans in sharply, whispering something, his jaw tight. The groom's smile snaps back into place, too quick, too forced. My daughter notices. I see her hand twitch against her gown, her eyes flicking toward me, then away. Her lips part as if to speak, but no words come. The silence between us is a chasm neither of us dares to cross. I recall a fact I once read: micro-expressions, the fleeting emotions that flash across a face before masks are reapplied, often reveal the truth. And in that trembling hand, that snapped smile, I see it: fear. This groom, so confident moments ago, is afraid of something, or someone. The waiter, who nearly dropped the tray, steadies himself, glancing at me as if to apologize. But his eyes linger longer than they should. There's recognition there, perhaps even pity. He mouths something too quick to catch before hurrying away. My skin prickles. How many here know more than I do? I rest my hand over my pocket, feeling the edges of the letter, the broken bracelet, the photograph. Each item presses against me heavier with every passing minute. My wife's words echo, "You will see signs, do not ignore them." The groom's slip is not just nervousness, it is a sign. My daughter lifts her glass next her smile, faint, her voice steady as she thanks the guests once more. But as she lowers it, her hand brushes the empty space on her wrist. Her eyes dart around searching, and when she doesn't find the bracelet, her chest rises sharply. For the briefest second, she looks toward me again. It is not anger in her eyes, it is not dismissal, it is a plea. The music swells again, drowning everything in false joy. My ex-brother-in-law claps loudly, laughing, trying to keep the attention fixed on celebration. But I can't unsee what I've seen. My wife was right. There are signs everywhere. And I know now I am not just a guest at this wedding. I'm a witness to something much darker. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The reception carries on with exaggerated cheer, but I feel the tension crackle beneath it, sharp and invisible as static. Plates are cleared, fresh dishes set down, and wine flows freely. The groom's family sits at the head of the hall, elevated by position and posture, their voices carrying above the rest, like they own not just the table, but the day itself. I study them carefully. The father, stern and rigid, never truly smiles. He bares his teeth like a wolf. The mother, jeweled and composed, wears elegance like armor. Their circle of friends and relatives lean in close, whispering, nodding at every word, creating an island of superiority. On the other side, where my own family should sit, there are only fragments. A cousin who avoids my gaze. A nephew tapping restlessly at his phone. Even those with my blood act like satellites pulled by the stronger gravity of the groom's clan. It strikes me then, this isn't just a marriage, it is a conquest. I catch my daughter's eyes again just for a moment. She sits straight, hands folded carefully in her lap, her face painted with grace. But I know her. I see the stiffness in her shoulders, the way she keeps glancing toward her new in-laws as if awaiting permission to breathe. She doesn't look at me, not directly. Still, I feel the message. She is trapped. I shift uncomfortably in my seat. My hand brushes the broken bracelet in my pocket, its sharp clasp biting into my skin. That bracelet was a symbol of her childhood, of the years when she belonged to me, when I was her anchor. Now it lies broken, hidden, just like our bond. A voice nearby mutters, "He shouldn't even be here." Another answers, "She made her choice." I stare at the tablecloth, the threads weaving neat patterns, and wonder how many of them believe the same, that I am no longer part of her life, no longer necessary, no longer father. I remember reading once about ancient feasts, how families divided themselves by rank, the weak pushed to the edges, the powerful commanding the center. It wasn't just about food, it was about hierarchy. And tonight the hierarchy is clear. I'm at the margins, my daughter at the center surrounded by wolves. A server sets down a plate of roast before me, the aroma of herbs and garlic filling my nose. But even the food feels like a test. The meat is undercooked, nearly raw blood pooling at the edges, an accident perhaps. Or a message. I push the plate away. The band softens, preparing for the next round of speeches. The groom's father rises, commanding the hall with his height alone. He raises his glass, his voice booming. Tonight, two families join as one, and yet he pauses, eyes sliding in my direction. Every union requires sacrifice. The word lingers heavy and deliberate. The crowd applauds. I sit motionless. Sacrifice. My daughter's eyes flicker briefly, a tremor passing over her features before she composes herself again. The divide grows clearer by the second, and I realize I am not just excluded. I am being erased piece by piece until nothing of me remains in her story. But silence has its own way of speaking. I sit rigid, my hands pressed against my knees while the groom's father basks in the applause his words command. Around me, the crowd lifts their glasses again, eager to toast. The noise blurs into a dull roar in my ears. Then, just as I lower my gaze, a voice breaks through. "Excuse me," someone says clear and steady. The room falters. All eyes turn toward the source. A young man at a nearby table stands awkwardly, clutching his glass with both hands. He looks out of place in his ill-fitted suit, the sleeves too short at the wrists, but his eyes burn with something I haven't seen all night: conviction. He clears his throat. I just want to say, not every sacrifice should be applauded. Sometimes what looks like strength is just cruelty dressed up as tradition. His words hang in the air, sharp and unexpected. The groom's father narrows his eyes, his smile faltering. Whispers ripple through the tables. The young man glances briefly at me, then looks away quickly, as though afraid of the weight of what he's done. My chest tightens. I don't know him. He isn't family, not mine or theirs. Yet in this hall full of people eager to erase me, he has spoken a truth no one else dared. For a fleeting second, I feel less alone. But the moment shatters as quickly as it appeared. The groom's uncle barks a laugh, clapping the young man on the back, spoken like someone who's had a little too much wine. The crowd chuckles nervously. Tension diffused. The young man reddens, lowering himself back into his chair. His glass trembles in his hand. The groom's father lifts his own glass again, voice booming. All opinions are welcome, of course, but tonight is not about division, it is about loyalty. His gaze sweeps the room before landing squarely on me. And loyalty, my friends, is not optional. Applause erupts once more. The young man stares into his drink, shoulders hunched. The moment of defiance has been smothered, erased as though it never happened. Yet I cannot forget it. In his brief courage, I saw a mirror of myself, a reminder that silence is not the only option. I slip my hand into my pocket, brushing the envelope, the photograph, the broken bracelet. My wife's voice echoes in my mind. Protect her, even if she will hate you for it. For the first time that evening, I feel something shift inside me. Resolve, faint but growing. If even a stranger could risk a word of truth in this room, how much more must I, her father, do the same? Still, unease gnaws at me. The groom's father's words were not a toast, they were a warning, and I fear the price of disloyalty will be higher than I imagined. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The hall quiets again, the band lowering their instruments as another figure rises. This time it's a man I don't recognize, one of the groom's friends perhaps. He's young, broad-shouldered, with a looseness in his step that tells me the wine has been flowing freely. Still, there's a sharpness in his eyes that doesn't belong to drunkenness. He lifts his glass high, swaying slightly. To the happy couple, he begins his tone, light practiced. The crowd hums in agreement, preparing to raise their own glasses. But then his smile falters. He clears his throat, voice tightening. And to the secrets we all keep for the sake of appearances. A ripple moves through the guests' laughter, unsure, scattered. He tips back his glass, drains it, and slams it down harder than necessary. May those secrets never come back to haunt us. The room stills. For a heartbeat, no one speaks. My eyes dart to my daughter. Her face pales, her hand clutching the stem of her glass until I fear it might snap. The groom leans in, whispering sharply into her ear, his expression tight with annoyance. She nods quickly, her smile forced back into place. I feel the envelope against my chest like a heartbeat of its own. Secrets. My wife's letter. My daughter's hidden fear, the broken bracelet, all of it converges into a single undeniable truth. Something is being concealed here, and I am the only one seeing the cracks. The groom's father rises slowly, deliberate in every movement. He chuckles, a sound too polished to be real. "What a spirited toast," he says, drawing the tension back under his control. His eyes, however, are not amused. They sweep the hall, daring anyone to press further. No one does. The man who made the toast sinks into his seat, his face flushed, his hand trembling as he pours another drink. I recall an obscure detail I once read: in certain old European villages, wedding feasts were considered dangerous places because truth was said to slip out under the influence of wine. The proverb went, "Wine loosens the tongue and tongues unravel families." It feels uncomfortably accurate now. I glance at my daughter again. Her eyes dart to me for a fraction of a second, then away, as though she cannot bear for me to see what lies beneath her mask. I want to rise to cross the floor to take her hand like I did when she was little and whisper, "You don't have to be afraid." But my legs remain heavy, bound by the silence and the stares pressing in from all sides. Around me the whispers resume, low and urgent. I hear the words secret inheritance choice. Each one fuels the storm in my chest. I grip the edge of the table until my knuckles blanch. The strange toast lingers like smoke no one can fan away. And in the middle of it, I realize I'm not just watching a wedding. I'm watching a carefully built facade begin to crack. But I soon realize that wasn't the worst of it. I sit in silence, the strange toast still hanging in the air like smoke no one dares clear. My chest tightens with every beat, the letter and bracelet burning in my pocket as though begging me to act. For hours I have been erased, humiliated, pushed to the margins, but my wife's words echo louder than the whispers around me. "Protect her, even if it means she will hate you for it." I push back my chair slowly. The screech of wood against polished floor cuts through the laughter and chatter. Heads turn one after another until the hall grows uncomfortably quiet. My knees shake, but I force myself upright, my hand resting lightly against the back of the chair to steady me. "I'd like to say something," I begin. My voice is rough, dry from disuse, but it carries in the silence. All eyes lock on me, some curious, some irritated, most simply waiting for me to make a fool of myself. My ex-brother-in-law smirks clearly, eager for another chance to mock me. The groom's father folds his arms, his expression darkening. My daughter's eyes widen, her lips parting as if to protest, then she closes them quickly, looking down at her lap. "I won't take long," I say. My hand slips into my jacket, brushing the envelope. But there are things that cannot stay buried. Not tonight. Not on this day. A murmur ripples through the hall. Someone hisses, "Sit down." Another whispers, "This isn't the time." But I hold my ground. For once, I refuse to shrink into silence. I unfold the letter, the paper trembling between my hands. My wife's handwriting stares back at me, the ink faded but fierce. I swallow hard, my throat burning. This, I say, raising it slightly, was written by my wife. She wanted it read when our daughter married. Gasps ripple across the room. My daughter lifts her head, her eyes wide, shimmering with tears she can't hide. The groom stiffens, his smile vanishing. His father leans forward, fists clenched against the table. I glance at the words again, but my voice falters. The weight of them feels too heavy to speak aloud in this hall before these people. My wife's voice whispers in my head, "You must decide if today is the day she hears them." I clear my throat, steadying myself. She wrote that there are truths I cannot ignore, that I must protect our daughter even if it costs me everything. The hall falls silent, the kind of silence that grows unbearable the longer it lingers. My ex-brother-in-law chuckles bitterly. "Always the dramatic one," he sneers, but no one laughs with him this time. My daughter's gaze meets mine unguarded for the first time in years. Her lips tremble. She whispers something I can't hear over the silence, but I see it in the shape of her mouth. "Help me." And in that instant I know I can't turn back now. I thought I was safe. But I was wrong. I hold the letter in my trembling hand, my daughter's pleading eyes searing into me when the silence shatters. Enough. The word explodes across the hall, sharp as glass breaking. It comes from the groom's father, his voice booming with command. He rises so abruptly his chair tips back, clattering to the floor. Gasps ripple through the guests, followed by a hush thick enough to choke on. "This is not the place," he growls, his finger stabbing the air in my direction. "This is my son's wedding. Sit down before you embarrass yourself further." The words hang heavy, but I don't move. My grip on the letter tightens, the paper crinkling in my fist. My heart pounds, each beat a drum calling me to stand taller. Around us, guests shift uneasily, torn between curiosity and fear. And then, unexpectedly, another voice cuts in. A woman at the far table, older, dressed in modest blue, rises to her feet. Her voice trembles, but it carries, "Let him speak." All heads snap toward her. I don't know her, perhaps a distant relative, perhaps a family friend, but her courage ripples through the silence like a stone tossed into still water. The groom's father stiffens, jaw clenched. He forces a laugh, strained and brittle. "People get carried away at weddings," he says, dismissing her. "Old wounds resurface. Best to let them heal quietly." But his son, the groom, betrays him. I catch it in the twitch of his jaw, the flicker of fear in his eyes. He glances at his bride, then away quickly, as though afraid she might confirm what he already knows. The band, uncertain, strikes a few hesitant notes before faltering into silence again. Even the servers freeze mid-step, trays hovering. The entire hall hangs on what will happen next. I lower the letter slightly, my eyes sweeping the crowd. My ex-brother-in-law mutters something cruel under his breath, smirking at the spectacle. The groom's mother grips her pearls, whispering sharply to her husband. My daughter sits rigid, her bouquet clutched so tightly that petals begin to snap and fall onto the table. For a moment, doubt claws at me. Perhaps I'm ruining this day. Perhaps speaking now will shatter what little remains of my relationship with her. But then I remember the broken bracelet in my pocket, the rue in her bouquet, the look in her eyes. The signs. My wife's words. Protect her, even if she hates you for it. I inhale, steadying my voice. I cannot stay silent. I begin again, not when the truth is clawing to be heard. The groom's father slams his palm against the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "You'll regret this," he snarls. And in that instant the air shifts. This is no longer a celebration, it's a battlefield. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The groom's father looms over the table, his shadow stretching across the white linen like a stain. The chatter of the guests has collapsed into silence, every eye fixed on the confrontation. My hand trembles slightly around the letter, but I hold it aloft, refusing to lower it. He steps closer, his polished shoes clicking against the floor with deliberate menace. When he stops beside me, he bends slightly, his voice low enough for only me to hear. Yet I feel every guest straining to catch the words. "You will sit down," he hisses, his breath hot with wine, "or I will make sure you never see her again." The threat slices through me. My chest tightens. My knees weaken, but I don't yield. For years I have endured silence, humiliation, whispers. But this is a line I cannot ignore. His words confirm what I've suspected all night. Control, possession, and fear are the weapons wielded by this family. He grips my arm suddenly, his fingers like iron clamps. Gasps erupt from nearby tables. My daughter jerks upright, her bouquet tumbling to the floor, petals scattering across the tiles. "Father," she cries, not to him, but to me. The word is sharp, desperate, filled with terror. For the first time in years, she has called me father. The sound ignites something deep inside me. I glance around the hall. Some guests avert their eyes, unwilling to interfere. Others whisper frantically, their faces pale. The young man who defended me earlier half rises, but his companion pulls him back down. No one dares to challenge the groom's father. Except me. I straighten slowly, forcing my arm free from his grip. The room seems to shrink around us, the weight of decades of silence pressing into this single moment. "You may control your son," I say, my voice low but steady. "You may control this hall, but you will not control her." A hush follows, heavy and electric. The groom's father stares at me, his jaw tight, his eyes glinting with fury. For a heartbeat, I think he might strike me. Instead, he steps back, his smile snapping into place, cold and thin. "Very well," he says loudly, turning to the crowd. "Let the man speak. Let's all hear what nonsense he thinks will save his pride." The crowd exhales in uneasy relief, but I see the calculation in his eyes. His threat still lingers, coiled and waiting. I glance at my daughter. Her face is pale, her hands trembling, but her eyes are wide, locked on me with a desperate hope I haven't seen since she was a child. The letter trembles in my hand. My wife's words burn in my mind. "Protect her, even if she hates you for it." And I know I cannot stop now. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The hall feels suspended in glass, every eye fixed on me, every breath held as though the room itself waits to see if I'll falter. My hand shakes slightly as I unfold the letter, the paper fragile edges frayed from years unseen. My wife's handwriting curves across the page, steady and elegant, a ghostly echo of her voice. I clear my throat. This, I say, my voice louder than I intend, was written by my wife before she passed. She wanted it to be read on our daughter's wedding day. Gasps ripple through the crowd. My ex-brother-in-law mutters, "Always the dramatics," but even he leans forward, unable to mask his curiosity. I look down at the letter again, the words shimmering as if alive. My throat burns, but I force them out. She wrote, "Marriage should never be built on silence or on secrets that rot beneath the surface. If you are reading this, it means our daughter is stepping into a future I feared might not be safe. Watch closely. Protect her, even if it means you stand alone." The words strike the air like a bell. Guests shift uneasily, glances darting to the bride and groom. My daughter clasps her hands together, her knuckles white, her chest rising and falling too quickly. The groom grips her wrist, subtle but firm, as though to steady or restrain her. I lower the letter slightly, scanning the faces before me. The groom's father's jaw tightens. His smile has vanished completely, now replaced by something colder, harder. His wife clutches at her pearls, whispering urgently into his ear. "I don't know what you've all been told," I continue, my voice steadier, "but my wife saw something before any of us, and tonight I've seen the same signs. The broken bracelet, the rue in her bouquet, the look in her eyes." I gesture toward my daughter. She is not safe. Not here. Not with this silence. A murmur spreads through the hall, whispers rising like the hiss of wind through trees. Some shake their heads, dismissing me. Others look uncertain, their smiles faltering. The groom forces a laugh, brittle and hollow. "This is ridiculous," he says. "Just the ramblings of a lonely old man who can't accept." He stops abruptly, his words strangled by the weight of the stares fixed on him. And then my daughter's voice pierces the silence, soft, trembling, but unmistakable. He's right. The room gasps as one. Her veil trembles in her hands. Tears blur her eyes, but her face hardens with something else resolve. She looks at me, no longer hiding, no longer silent. "Father, help me." The hall erupts in chaos, shouts, whispers, a chair scraping across the floor. The groom's father rises again, fury blazing. But I no longer hear the noise. I hear only my daughter's plea, clear as a bell ringing through the storm. Silence has its own way of speaking. The chaos swells, voices clashing, wine glasses toppling, as though the hall itself has lost its balance. But through it all, I see only her. My daughter standing at the head table, bouquet forgotten on the floor. Her hands shake, her lips tremble, and then the dam breaks. Tears spill down her cheeks, streaking her carefully painted face. Gasps ripple through the guests. The bride is never supposed to cry, not like this, not in front of everyone. Yet she doesn't hide it. She sobs openly, the sound raw, tearing through the music and the chatter until nothing remains but her grief. The groom clutches her arm, whispering furiously, his jaw clenched. She shakes her head violently enough that her veil slips sideways. "Let go," she cries, her voice trembling, but loud enough to silence the room. "Just let me go." The groom's father surges forward, but the officiant steps between them, his hands raised in an attempt to calm. His voice quivers as he says, "Perhaps we should pause." I rise from my seat, my knees weak but my resolve steady. The letter crinkles in my hand. "No," I say firmly. "No more pauses, no more silences." My daughter looks at me, her eyes swollen, her face pale. For the first time in 3 years, I feel the bond between us flicker back to life. Not healed, not whole, but undeniable. I see the little girl who used to run to me when thunder shook the windows. I see the teenager who once whispered her secrets into my ear before sleep. And now I see a woman begging for protection, caught in a storm too big for her to weather alone. The crowd stirs uneasily. Some guests whisper that she's overwhelmed, that it's just nerves. Others shake their heads, sensing something deeper, something darker. My ex-brother-in-law mutters into his glass, but no one laughs this time. I step closer to the head table. "You don't have to do this," I tell her softly, though the microphone catches my words and carries them across the hall. "You don't have to carry their secrets." Her sobs slow, her shoulders rising and falling with each shuddering breath. She nods slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough for me to see. The groom releases her arm, his smile gone, his face a mask of fury and fear. He looks at his father as though pleading for instruction. The older man's expression hardens. His voice booms. "This is nonsense. She's emotional. She doesn't know what she's saying." But her tears say otherwise. Her tears are the truth no one can deny. I press the letter to my chest, my wife's words echoing in my mind. "Protect her." And I know I will. Even if it means burning every bridge in this hall. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The hall quivers on the edge of collapse. Guests shift uneasily, torn between loyalty to appearances and the raw truth unfolding before them. My daughter's tears still streak her cheeks, her sobs echoing in the vaulted ceiling. The groom sits frozen, his hand twitching toward her but stopping short as though even he knows the crowd has turned. The officiant clears his throat, his voice breaking. Perhaps we should pause the ceremony, he says, glancing nervously toward the groom's father. The man's scowl deepens, his authority challenged in front of everyone. My daughter shakes her head, wiping her tears with trembling fingers. No, she whispers, and then louder, no more pretending. Her words hang like a thunderclap. Gasps ripple through the room. My ex-brother-in-law mutters something sharp, but it's drowned out by the rising wave of murmurs. Guests lean toward each other, whispering urgently. The band has fallen silent, their instruments slack in their hands. I step forward, my hand tightening around the letter. My wife's words press against my palm. Even if it means you stand alone. But I'm no longer alone. My daughter's plea, her tears have drawn a line across the hall. Listen to her, I say, my voice carrying. Listen to what she cannot say aloud. Look at her bouquet rue for regret. Look at her wrist, the bracelet broken. These are not accidents. These are cries for help hidden in plain sight. A few heads nod, uncertain but moved. An older guest murmurs about omens, another about the weight of symbols. Superstition or not, they feel the truth. The groom's father slams his fist on the table. This is madness, he bellows. She is my son's wife now. She belongs to us. The word belongs hangs in the air, foul and heavy. My daughter flinches visibly. The crowd recoils, a collective intake of breath. For the first time, whispers shift against him. I take another step closer, my heart pounding, my knees weak but unyielding. She is no one's property, I say. Not yours, not even mine. She is her own. And if this marriage is built on silence and fear, then it will not stand. The officiant stares at me, torn sweat beading on his forehead. He looks to the bride, then to the groom, as though awaiting a signal to proceed or to end it. And then my daughter does something no one expects. She rises. Slowly, deliberately, she stands tall, her veil slipping to the floor, her face streaked with tears but resolute. I can't, she says, her voice breaking but strong enough to carry. I can't go through with this. The hall erupts, cries of shock, shouts of denial, whispers racing like fire. The groom surges to his feet, his hand reaching for her, but she steps back, shaking her head violently. This is the turning point. The facade is broken. The truth, whatever shape it takes, can no longer be buried. And I know everything changes from here. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The hall erupts into chaos. Guests stand, voices clashing in waves, some shouting for calm, others demanding answers, still others clutching at their pearls or phones as if the spectacle were too valuable to miss. Chairs scrape glasses, topple wine spills across the white linen like blood. At the center of it all stands my daughter, veil discarded, bouquet, abandoned, her hands trembling but her voice steady. I can't marry him, she says again, louder now, cutting through the storm. Not like this, not with lies. The groom's face hardens, his jaw set, his eyes flashing with something darker than anger. He reaches for her wrist, but she jerks away, tears falling freely. You promised me, he hisses, too low for most to hear, but I hear it. Promised what my gut twists. Then, like glass finally fracturing under pressure, the truth begins to spill. The woman in blue, the one who defended me earlier, steps forward, her face pale. Tell them, she demands, her voice sharp. Tell them before someone else does. Gasps ripple again. Guests turn their heads, their whispers rising in pitch. The groom's father slams his palm onto the table, his voice thunderous. Silence. But the command no longer holds the same power. The hall has shifted. The cracks are too wide to mend. My daughter's shoulders shake. She lifts her gaze to the crowd, her lips quivering. They lied to me. She says, her words breaking like fragile glass. They lied about everything, about the money, about what this marriage was really for. The groom shouts, "Stop!" His voice cracks, betraying his fear. His father grips his shoulder, pulling him back, but his face is a mask of fury. I step forward, my wife's letter clutched tightly in my hand. She doesn't owe you silence, I say, my voice steady. Not anymore. The young man who spoke earlier rises again, emboldened now. Everyone knows, he cries. This isn't about love, it's about control, about inheritance. His words ignite the room like a spark to dry tinder. Guests gasp, some nodding in sudden recognition, others clutching their mouths in horror. Inheritance. The word echoes like a bell toll. Pieces click into place, the smugness of the groom's father, the forced smiles, the heavy whispers. This union was never meant for love. It was a transaction, a binding of wealth and power, with my daughter as the currency. My daughter sobs, her knees weakening. I rush forward, catching her before she can fall. For the first time in years, she collapses into my arms, clinging to me as though she is that little girl again, hiding from storms. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I should have listened sooner." Tears sting my eyes. "No," I murmur, holding her tightly. "I should have protected you sooner." The groom's father shouts, demanding order, demanding obedience, but no one listens anymore. The hall is broken open, the truth exposed for all to see. The shattered truth lies bare on the floor, and nothing can piece it back together. Silence has its own way of speaking. The reception hall is no longer a place of celebration. The confetti lies trampled, the flowers droop, and the once bright music has fallen silent. Guests scatter in small clusters, whispering, their eyes darting between my daughter and the groom's furious family. No one claps, no one cheers. Only the weight of truth lingers heavy and undeniable. I sit with my daughter at the edge of the room, her veil discarded beside her, her bouquet crushed beneath a chair. She leans against me, exhausted, her tears finally slowing. For the first time in 3 years, her hand rests in mine, warm and trembling. That simple touch feels like a bridge rebuilt after years of ruin. The groom and his father stand apart, their voices low, faces grim. Their allies avoid their gaze now, loyalty splintering in the light of exposure. Secrets once guarded have turned to poison, and everyone knows it. I take the envelope from my jacket and smooth it gently. My wife's handwriting stares back at me. She had seen all of this before. It unfolded: the danger, the silence, the need to act. She had trusted me to protect our daughter, even if it meant standing alone. And though it came too late tonight, I honored her wish. The broken bracelet lies on the table beside us, its charm scattered but still intact. I pick it up, pressing it into my daughter's palm. "We can fix this," I tell her softly. "Not just the bracelet, us." Her eyes glisten as she nods, clutching it tightly. For the first time in years, she whispers, "I want that too." I glance around the ruined hall, the toppled glasses, the fractured families, the shattered facade of wealth and power. It all seems so fragile now, a reminder of how easily silence and deceit can unravel everything. And yet beneath the wreckage, I feel something steady. Hope. Not the naive hope of perfect endings, but the quiet, hard-won hope that comes after storms. My wife was right, silence cannot protect us. Only truth, however painful, can. As the last guests drift away and the hall empties, I squeeze my daughter's hand and whisper a promise: "You will never face this alone again." For tonight, justice was not neat, nor was forgiveness simple. But love, stubborn, scarred, and enduring, has found its way back through the cracks. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it touched you, please subscribe and continue with the next story in the playlist.